you ready to branch out, to take a leap of faith, to love yourself and others fully? Then let go of whatever no longer serves you to take action now on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Erica will energize and excite you to power up your passionate dream that sets your soul on fire. With Erica's E3 approach, equipping, empowering, and enlightening yourself so you can be yourself for yourself. Get ready and get rooted to live a life without regrets, without what ifs, without should haves, and especially without empty feelings from a life unexplored. This hit show helps you build powerful and intentional roots to live it up, love it up, and let it go. Get fearlessly ready and powerfully rooted in your yes with your host, Erica Gifford Mills, and be fearless about your more and stand in your yes. Now on Get Rooted Radio.
Welcome, everyone. I am Erica Gifford Mills, and you are listening to Get Rooted Radio, living it up, loving it up, letting it go, right here on Transformation Talk Radio. A big shout out to my producer today, Nat. How are you doing?
I'm doing great today, Erica. Excited to be here.
I'm excited for you to hear this too, because today's episode is titled Clarity, Confidence, and Cash Flow, the Side Hustler's Game Plan. And too many side hustlers stay stuck, right? Overwhelmed, doing all the things and wasting time and energy trying to grow a business without a clear strategy. And in this episode, business coach Nefateria Fonda really shares her blueprint, her clarity to cash blueprint to help service-based entrepreneurs get focused, build confidence, and generate consistent income without quitting their job too soon or sacrificing what matters most. So if you're ready to treat your business like a business and finally move forward, today's conversation is your game plan. I'd like to tell you first a little bit about my guest. Nefateria is the owner and founder of Go Get It, Inc., a certified business and sales coach, author, and speaker. She equips service-based parallelpreneurs, which is entrepreneurs building businesses alongside their careers, to get clear on their offers, confident in their pricing, and consistent in their cash flow. Nef is also the author of How to Activate Your Faith, Commit to a Plan, and Take Action That Will Change Your Life. It is known for delivering high energy, high impact sessions that leave audiences ready to move forward with clarity and confidence. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you, Erica, for having me.
So during this first segment, what I really want to get into is the living it up portion of it, building with purpose, not pressure. Yeah. So I want to give our listeners a little bit of what led you to start Go Get It and focus on side hustlers specifically.
So when I started Go Get It Inc. And really wanted to focus on those side hustlers, it's because building a business while working your full-time job is not for the faint at heart at all. You think because if you get more time to build your business that, all is going to be right with the world, right? I can make it work if I just have more time. You take this leap of faith, you leave your job if that's what you choose to do. And you quickly realize it takes more than time to build this business that you love, right? It takes the clarity, it takes the structure, it takes strategy that's the things that you need to actually grow and sustain the business. It's not just having the more time, and that experience for myself personally really lit a fire under me that what I need to really help, service-based businesses like myself avoid, that same confusion and overwhelm that I personally experienced when it came to, really building a real business with purpose and profit in mind.
That's so important because many people really have the drive, they really have the passion, but they just don't know what to do. So how did you go from winging it to building a real business strategy?
Woo! Girl, let me tell you, I just got really tired of just playing with different business strategies and trying to mix and match, grabbing tools from here, a tip from here, watching YouTube, downloading all the different freebies, just trying to get all these different pieces together and trying to make it work from all of these different pieces. And I finally had to just kind of sit down with myself and kind of ask myself, what kind of business do I actually really want to run for myself? And kind of get clear on who was doing it in the way that I want to do it. And when I found that person, I hired them as a coach. I read their books and I kind of stalked their content, not in a bad way, of course, right? And really, looked at their strategy and implemented those things into my business, right? And it's like when you're trying to make pancakes and you're trying to get your mom's recipe, your aunt's recipe, your grandma's recipe, and you end up with a lumpy mess because everybody swears their recipe is the best.
I think that is important because not everything's going to resonate with maybe your type of business. And so, and I think it is sometimes a trial and error. And so when you are grabbing, right, learning from different people that are in your focus area, or that have been successful, sometimes we forget that I don't know the statistic. I'm just making this up, folks. 95% of people do not go overnight successes. They just know, people just don't see the years that it took to get up to it. So when we're doing that and we want to live, right? My tagline is living it up, loving it up, letting it go. So this part is living it up. What does living it up look like when you're juggling a full-time job and you've got your side hustle, you've got your business?
I would say it's really about being present and intentional, right? When you're at work, be focused at work. When you're running your business, be all in at your business. And for the love of God, when you're on vacation, be on vacation. That means no business emails, no sneaking any tasks. Don't let those roles bleed into each other. We have a tendency to do that, like, oh, I'm on vacation, so I'm gonna sneak in a little bit of my business stuff, or I'm at work, let me do a little bit of my, personal business stuff, right? But that kind of, when you do that, overwhelm seems to creep in. And we want you to kind of stay focused and really be present in the moment. And that kind of also helps protect the peace, right? And how are you going to live it up if you're like all over the place and not fully present in the moment, no matter where you are? And if you want to make real progress, you really have to enjoy life and be present in the moment in whatever role you are in at that time, right?
Yeah. And I think it's also, it does your business and it does your employer a disservice when you're trying to do it all at the same time. You're not doing your best work because you're not putting your full presence and attention to the task at hand.
Agreed.
Yeah. So why is it so important to focus on that clarity piece first instead of trying to just do all the things?
So when you focus on the clarity, it really is going to save you from wasting time, right? Wasted energy, wasted effort. If you're not clear and you find yourself going down this path that looks good on the surface, you're going to realize later, wait, is this really what I want? How many times have we went one way and we realized, yeah, this is really not what I want. But if we had took the time to slow down and really get clear and figure out what it is that we want, it's going to speed us up in the long run. But a lot of times we're like, go, and not sitting down and taking that time that it takes to get it right the first time. And that way, you're really going to build something that you don't end up resenting or having to start it over and over and over again because you took the time to get the clarity that you need from the beginning. Now, it's okay to pivot. We all sometimes decide, we got clarity and we just went left and that's what we wanted to do. But at some point you decided to pivot and that's okay. But take the time and slow down and get the clarity that you need from the beginning so you don't have to start over and over again.
Yeah. And as you grow your business, sometimes your focus changes, meaning like where you might go down a little bit further in your niche, right? And that's where you're talking about that pivot is fine, right? You just don't try to be overwhelming yourself and doing all the things, right? And before we go to our next break, we still have a couple minutes here. I want to know what's a common mistake side hustlers make when trying to grow too fast.
That's a great question. I would say that one common mistake that I see that side hustlers make when they're trying to grow too fast is they think they need to scale because that's what everyone else is doing. But growth without the right foundation is just going to create stress for you. Remembering when I first hired my first VA, right? I was drowning in admin work and I was like, I need help. But I didn't have the right systems in place. I had no SOPs, no onboarding process, really no real clarity on what I needed or what I even wanted her to do. But I just wanted help, right? So I was like, oh, let me just hire a VA. And that wasn't her fault. It was mine, truly. I just jumped ahead without setting my business up to really receive the kind of support that I needed. And growth has to be intentional, not reactionary. So otherwise, it's going to cost us more time, more money, and peace than we think.
Well, and it's just like how we said this first segment, it's building with purpose, not pressure. So don't feel pressured that you have to grow real fast, you have to scale, you have to do all this, because if you don't have the right, like you said, systems and practices, policies, what you want to do, it's gonna flop because you don't have that clarity and that foundation set.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about loving it up, loving yourself through the entrepreneurial process. But before we go, Nef, tell folks how they can connect with you.
Absolutely. So you can connect with me on my website at www.gogetitinc.com.
Wonderful. Thank you. You are listening to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. If you missed any portion of today's episode, you can catch it on getrootedradio.com. Don't forget to subscribe online to receive the latest news, events, specials, and words of encouragement. Go to getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Nef. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
So during the last segment, we discussed living it up, and that was by building with purpose, not pressure. And during this segment, we want to talk about loving it up, loving yourself through the entrepreneurial journey. So why do so many entrepreneurs overlook that self-love, self-care, and mindset? And how should they be showing up in our own journey?
Well, if they were raised anything like me, we were raised to just believe if you just work hard, that you'll get that reward, you'll reach the goal, you'll get that check, and you'll earn that title. Nobody was really talking about, in my household, mindset or what to say to yourself, or whether even if you like yourself or on the way to success and self-love or self-care. Please, most of us don't grow up seeing that. I know I didn't. I grew up in a military household. I'm a veteran myself. And, it was all about that grinded out mindset, was second nature for us, push through, get it done. I can sleep when I die was something that I lived by for a very, very long time. And, I just really didn't believe mindset or self-love had anything to do with my success or even my results, until I was doing all the right things and still not seeing the success that I wanted. And that's when I had to pause and say, okay, wait, what am I thinking? What am I believing about myself? And y'all, one day I was tired. I was dragging. I was still trying to push through because that's what I knew. Like, being a vet, grew up in a military household, like you push through, you make it happen, you get it done by any means. And I finally say, you know what? I'm just going to go take this quick nap. And when I tell you that nap was life-changing, oh boy, that nap was life-changing. When I woke up, I was full of new ideas. I had more energy. I had clarity. And it felt like a total reboot for me. And I thought, maybe there is something to this rest and this self-love thing. So now it's not just about that grind. It is about taking care of yourself while you're building. And, kind of what are you saying to yourself and giving yourself that reboot and that recharge that you need.
Yeah. And I think folks sometimes forget that it is called mind, body, and spirit for a reason. It's all intertwined. Your mental health, emotional health, physical health, spiritual health, your community involvement, all that, it ties together. And if we aren't paying attention to that, and if we aren't loving ourselves, we aren't taking care of ourselves, and we don't keep that positive mindset going, it's going to affect our business, right? Because we might not be sleeping well. Well, if we're not sleeping well, then we're not focused, we're not clear, then we're probably not eating right because of all that. And then if we're not eating right, we're not keeping our body fueled. So we can't really do our physical exercise, which gives us energy. So it's all that intertwining. And I think sometimes when you're hustling, right, when you're working a full-time job and you've got your side business, all that seems to be left to the wayside. We think, well, I don't have time for that because I got to do this. And if you don't take care of yourself, who's going to take care of your business? So how, I want to ask you personally, how does your faith, because I had mentioned that even your spiritual, right? So is a portion of it. So how does your faith guide your business decisions, especially when things are uncertain or unknown?
Right. So for me, faith is everything in my business. I just really lean totally into, my word and, what, my scripture says. I totally believe that God will never leave me nor forsake me. I'm supposed to trust him with all my heart and lean not to my own understanding. But don't get it wrong now. I am human like everyone else. So some days are definitely harder than others. There are moments when I'm like, I'm doubting things, it creeps in. I feel stuck. I feel overwhelmed. I'm not sure what move to make and, what I should do. So that's when I have to really pause and pray and just take some time and really figure out, what it is that I need to do to move forward. Some people use affirmations or journals. I just personally turn to scripture, trying to remind myself of those times that, the Lord has brought me through some uncertainties, in my life and in my business. And when I'm wrestling with big decisions, I don't just push through. I take a pause and try to get the clarity that I need. I talk to God and see what he has to say about, to me in this stillness. And it usually gets me what I need as far as the guidance to continue to move forward.
That's important to know that we all go through those. As you said, we are human. So
Absolutely.
What do you say to the entrepreneur who is doubting themselves, maybe doubting their prices or their packages, or whether or not they're even ready to move forward? What would you say to them?
So that entrepreneur that's doubting themselves, whether it's pricing or just, their abilities, I feel like they should honor that, right? Sometimes, people be like, just talk yourself through it. But no, you need to honor that hesitation. It's there for a reason, right? So if you're doubting that service, maybe it's time to get clear on your promise, right? What is it that you're delivering? Maybe you need to put a few more reps in to build that confidence in what it is that you're delivering. If you're cringing when you're saying that price out loud, maybe you need to check in yourself. Maybe it's not time for you to charge, I know you might have heard charge what you're worth, right? But maybe, you're not there yet. Maybe you need to back up and really find out if you're ready to charge premium pricing for your service. Maybe you can't stomach a $10,000 offer right now. Maybe you need to charge $7,000, whatever you need to start at to make you can say it with your chest and feel confident about it. That's where you need to start. Don't just believe the hype, and if you feel like you're not ready, to do that, you need to honor that, right? That's where the real growth begins, when you're honest with yourself about where you are. So I really feel like when you're doubting yourself, check in with yourself and see what's really going on and honor that despite what you might be hearing or seeing.
And you have to understand, I think when you're saying this too, is that you have to understand, is it because you're uncomfortable? I mean, growth does happen outside the comfort zone, right? But if you're uncomfortable, is it confidence? Is it the product? Is it you think you're not worthy of it? All that stuff, but you have to take a step back and ask those questions. It's like, what is it? What am I uncomfortable with? So that, because if you are uncomfortable with it, you're not going to present yourself as comfortable. And that's going to affect your business because of your interactions with potential clients. So I would love to hear, can you share a time when loving yourself meant setting a boundary or saying no in business? Because listeners know I'm all about boundary management. So I love asking this question. So can you share a time when because, boundary management is about self-love, self-worth, self-respect. And what better way to teach somebody else how to love you, respect you, and appreciate you than setting a boundary? So can you share an example that you had?
Yes, absolutely. I had to learn to say no to opportunities that didn't move me closer to my purpose or support my goals, and I had to set for myself. And sometimes we get excited, right? Someone is offering you a chance to speak or collaborate or be seen. You feel like we have to say yes. just because it's polite. Some people have been taught, you don't say no when somebody offers you something, you be grateful, But here's what I've learned. Every time you say yes to something, you're also saying no to something else. So you have to start protecting your time. You have to protect your energy and your talent. Not everything that sounds good or comes from good people is good for you. And that's what loving yourself is all about. That's what it looks like. So just because you're called to everything doesn't mean that you're called to every opportunity. You got to be very specific and not jumping on every opportunity just because somebody called you on the phone and say, hey, can you do this? Right? Just make sure you're answering the right calls for you and your goals.
And I think that can be said for so many things, right? Is it something that's going to bring you peace? Is it something that's going to bring you profit? Is it something that's going to bring you pleasure, right? Because and it needs to fit in your area of expertise. And I think that's sometimes when we are first getting started, we start saying yes to everything. Well, I just got to be seen. I just got to be seen. All right. Well, if you're in the finance world, why are you going to talk about something that's not even what you want to do? And sometimes people just get worked up on, but I need to get myself out there. And it's like, yeah, but is it the right audience? Just because somebody asks doesn't mean you have to say yes. And that's, it's a very good point to be having. So what would you say to the entrepreneur who feels guilty for resting or taking a step back? Because when we're looking at loving yourself through this whole process, why is that so important and why should they not feel guilty about it?
I would tell them to ask themselves, right? I'm a firm believer in checking in with yourself, right? Where is this guilt coming from? From some of us, it's how we were raised. We was raised, like I said, me in a military family where it's keep going, don't stop. Your rest is a reward, not a right. So, and that's hard to unlearn. For others, guilt is showing up because, deep down, you haven't done all that you needed to do. You haven't given your business the best. So you're feeling like the rest is, unearned, right? And listen, I feel like you just need to check in with yourself, but guilt isn't necessarily the guide either. Rest is not a reward for grinding yourself to the ground, but it's also, a requirement you keep showing up fully as well. So I just really feel like check in with yourself and see where that guilt may be coming from.
Yeah, practice that pause, right? Take a breath, pause, and really check in. So let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about letting it go, releasing what no longer serves you. But before we go, Nef, tell folks how they can connect with you and learn more about your services.
Yes, you can connect with me at my website at www.gogetit.com.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm Erica Gifford Mills, and you are listening to Get Rooted Radio. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're back on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Don't forget to visit getrootedradio.com to listen to a replay of this episode, sign up for helpful tips, and learn about upcoming events. That's getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Nef. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.
So during the last segments, we've talked about living it up, building with purpose, not pressure, loving it up, loving yourself through the entrepreneurial journey. And during this segment, we're going to talk about letting it go, releasing what no longer serves you. So how can entrepreneurs tell when something, whether it's a habit, a mindset, or even a business offer, is no longer serving them?
You can usually kind of tell when it's no longer serving you. If you keep constantly like avoiding it, you're procrastinating around it, you're feeling low-key dread every time it comes up, that's generally a sign that maybe it's time to really let this go. It's no longer serving you. When you talk about it, you get stuck or fear instead of showing up in confidence around this thing, habit, or offer, whatever it is, it's causing you to shrink instead of showing up in full confidence. And it may be time to put that thing to rest if any of those kind of things are showing up around said thing.
And I find that interesting because there are some things that I avoid because I'm not good at them. And I think sometimes I need to do it all myself instead of saying, you know what, I'm not good at this. I don't want to learn it. Could I learn it? Probably. I don't want to learn it. And that's when you go out there and you get help. And I know, and I do understand that, yes, not everybody all the time can, afford to go get that help because they're starting out in their process. But sometimes it takes you longer and you actually spend more, not only just money, but time and resources if you don't just let go of it and just let somebody else do it. And that's okay. But I would say, what's something that you had to let go of in your business to grow, even if it was hard for you?
I would say I had started this networking group for the third time, mind you. Yep, the third time. And this time it was actually working for me. The members were growing, they were connecting, they were building the momentum and, had a whole vibe going. Well, lady, let me tell you, behind the scenes, it was testing me. I was playing all the roles, coach, friend, leader, peacemaker, therapist on some days, and the lines were getting very blurry. And folks really started like side eyeing me when I was making like leadership decisions or holding boundaries, the things that you like tell your clients and really want them to enforce. And at some point I realized, how did I become the villain in something in a space that I created really out of love, and it was tough because I really, did create this community, for impact and out of place of, love. And I had to protect my peace and I had to let it go. And it was something that looked very successful on the outside, but it no longer felt good to me. And that is self-leadership and that's self-love and that is growth. When something looks successful on the outside, but you have to let it go to protect your peace.
And I think that's really important because you said a couple things that I want to ask about in there is, again, protecting your peace, setting those boundaries. And when something is not, and I don't want to say fun because, it's like we all got to do taxes. Taxes aren't fun unless you're a CPA and you love it. But I mean, there are things that we have to do that aren't fun, that aren't great. But is it breaking you down just to have it be successful? And is that something that you really need to continue to move forward on? But you also made a comment about, you were doing it all. Your lines were being blurred on what role am I to be playing here. So a question on that is, why do so many side hustlers stay attached to doing it all? And then what is the cost of that?
Oh, wow. I think few reasons I feel like we stay attached to doing it all. Sometimes we feel like if I want it done right, I have to do it myself. Sometimes we don't want to slow down to write out the steps or to create the process so that we can, pass it off to somebody else. It feels like we can get it done faster by doing it ourselves. It's our comfort zone. We feel like certain things, it's just, I'm good at it. I can do it. I can handle it. I can feel more productive if I take care of it, even if it's not profitable, because we just talked about that a few minutes ago, how you're saying sometimes, I'm just going to do it, not going to worry, trying to, I may not have the funds to pass it off to someone else, and sometimes staying busy just gives us a reason to avoid the stuff that actually grows our business, making those sales calls, following up, sending those quotes, going to a networking event, for example. But the truth is, once you start automating or delegating, you can really free up that time, that mental energy to make those real CEO tasks, the things that, doing that don't burn you out, right? You're not missing out on those opportunities that stall your growth, because as long as you're doing everything and you're busy, it's easy to say, I don't have the time, when you really have to make the time for doing the things that matters, even though that Canva flyer you got is cute. But it's not, doing things that the CEO of your business needs to be doing.
And I sometimes people don't want to let go of control. This is mine. This is my baby. I've done this and I don't want to let go and give that to somebody else. And it's fear. It's also, maybe a control mechanism, but and even that perfectionism, right? So what role does fear and perfectionism or either or, right, play in keeping an entrepreneur stuck?
I think it plays plays a big role because a lot of times, we're the face of our brand, and there's really nowhere to hide. If you make a mistake, if you misspell a word, if you put something out there and it flops, if you're a high achiever, you've excelled in other areas of your life, it hits even harder that, people already think you're crazy, you're doing the most because you're building a business, while you're working a 9 to 5. So, you're trying to prove something, that this can work too. And, you want to avoid, messing up or looking unsure, by putting these things out there. The pressure to feel like to show up polished, perfect, or, proven all the time. So what happens? You overthink it, you stall, you keep tweaking and tweaking, because you don't want to, fail publicly, right? And we all heard, done is better than perfect, but you still have that voice and you're saying, what if it doesn't work? What if when someone says something, that fear of that, launching keeps showing up and you're not growing, not because you're not ready, but because you don't want to seem, not being perfect.
Yeah. People are afraid to fail. Some people are afraid to succeed, right? They're also afraid that what if this takes off? What am I going to do? Or they get to the point of, I can make it better. I can make it better. You know what? Everything could have been made better. Well, hindsight's 2020. Yes, I could have done that better. Or, oh, look at that person's offering, and theirs is so much more professional or more glitzy or glam than mine is. And that's that comparison, right? Like, don't do that, and don't not think you're ready because you're afraid. And if you let go of that fear, let go of that perfectionism, you can at least move forward. If it fails, that doesn't mean that you're done. It means that's a learning opportunity. You can learn from that mistake and like, all right, well, now I know what works and what doesn't. And let's do this again. When you're real like that, people see that. It's, not everything that everybody does. It's, somebody once said to me, you know what a black belt is. It's just a white belt that didn't quit. And it's true, right? You have to be a beginner at some point. You don't start out as an expert. And if you did, then what's the point of continuing to, move forward? And even if you were an expert, you can be a super expert.
Right.
So one more question I want to ask about the letting it go. What's a mindset or belief that this audience needs to hear to release something today to move forward? A mindset or a belief?
Mindset or belief they need to release today. I would say overthinking. Because overthinking leads to inaction.
Yeah.
You don't get clarity just by sitting and spinning. You get clarity by doing, by testing, putting it out there, learning and adjusting and going at it again. Thinking has its place for sure, right? You got to think things through, but action is where you move towards your vision. And we can't get any kind of momentum if we never take a move, we never take a step. So, I just want them to stop waiting for the perfect clarity. I want them to start moving, start testing, and start building. We can't course correct from a parked car.
Right. No. And it's like you said, yes, do need to maybe start off a little slow in the beginning to make sure that we have that clarity and foundation. But that doesn't mean that it's got to be perfect. And just I'm a overthinker. I feel like I'm the queen of overthinking, right? So, and I've done that. I'm like, no decision, not making a decision is a decision.
It is.
So that when you think, well, I haven't made a decision, so it's okay. No, you decided to be stuck. And that's that overthinking and that waiting for the perfect time that everything's perfect. That's never going to come. So just let it go. Right. Yeah. Well, what is one more tip about letting it go that you would like our audience to hear?
One more tip for letting it go. I would say faith over fear. Yeah, I would say in essence is like replace, if you could replace your fears that you have with faith, what would you try? What would you do? So anytime that you have fear, and we all have it, but if you could just think for a moment, if I could replace this fear that I have for this moment with faith, what would you do? And just take the very next step, no matter how small it is, just take the very next step. Say, today I'm replacing the fear of speaking with faith and take the next step, whatever that step is.
I love that. So definitely let's try that. So we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to finish out the show with being rooted for success, taking action without losing ourselves. This is Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. If you missed any of the information during the last segments, go to getrootedradio.com to listen to the replay. Don't forget to subscribe, sign up for tips and special events and pricing for upcoming coaching sessions at getrootedradio.com. Welcome back to my guest, Nefateria Fonda Robinson. Thank you so much for being on the show with me today.
Thank you.
Tell folks how they can connect with you and learn more about your services.
They can connect with me at my website at www.gogetitinc.com.
Wonderful. So during the last few segments, we discussed living it up, building with purpose, not pressure, loving it up, loving yourself through the entrepreneurial journey, and letting it go, which is releasing what no longer serves you. And during this last segment, we're going to talk about being rooted for success and taking action without losing yourself. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is something we've talked about at the very beginning, is your clarity to cash blueprint. So what is it? And then how does it help service-based side hustlers move forward with confidence?
Okay. So the Clarity Cash Blueprint is my signature program, and it's designed specifically for service-based side hustlers who tired of winging it. You know, they're ready to really treat their business like a real business. It walks them through step by step my 10 pillars that helps them, you know, every entrepreneur, sustainable, profitable business with clarity and confidence. We talk about mindset and mission, moving them through the practical strategies from defining the ideal client, pricing their services, positioning their offer, promoting it, and actually getting paid. It's part coaching, training, as well as accountability. And what makes it different is not just about the information, it's also about implementation. My goal is to help them to stop second guessing themselves and start making consistent progress without sacrificing their job, their family, or their peace.
Which are all so important. So how can folks learn more about that whole program that you have on your website?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So what's one simple but powerful action a listener can take today to start treating their business like a business?
So I would tell them to choose one offer, one audience, and one clear result and commit to it. Now, I know that sounds really simple, but it has not always been easy. Trust me, not even for me. Sometimes you want to juggle multiple offers. You're trying to serve everyone and everybody, and you're wondering why things feel a little scattered. But the moment you get clear on who it is that you serve, how you can help them, and what they can walk away with, everything is going to shift for you. Your message is going to get sharper. You're going to get more confidence. You're going to selling. It's going to start feeling less sleazy. It's going to be less of a struggle. You're going to sell it like a service, and it's going to be so much easier. But if for whatever reason that's a little bit too difficult for you today, another simple, powerful step is to set your business hours and stick to them. Even just that simple act can start building your discipline and your structure to start treating your business like a real business. Because if you don't take it seriously, why should anyone else?
Oh, and that is that last statement right there, right? If you don't treat it seriously, why should anybody else? That is so true. So I know, right, buddy? He wants to be part of the show today. So,
yes, hi, first friend.
He's like, I heard you say queen and I'm the king. So how can entrepreneurs stay grounded in faith and strategy while building on the side, because like you said, you want people to take you seriously. And it can be very hard when you're doing it on the side, but many people have to do that. And so how can they stay grounded in faith and strategy when they're doing that?
So for me, it's just not about just don't just start it with prayer. I mean, you have to keep it moving throughout the entire process. Check in with God before you plan, before you make that pitch, definitely before you pivot, because, you're not building this business alone. You also just need to sit, don't just sit, I should say, excuse me, and wait for those divine downloads. I believe in faith, but I also believe in action. I believe it goes hand in hand. Faith without works is dead. So yes, I pray, but I also plan. I believe, but I also build. Because like I said, faith without works is dead. And strategy without faith is just stress. So when you want to root, yes, I'll say it again. Strategy without faith is just stress.
I love that. So I want to thank you so much for being on the show. And one last time, where folks can learn more about your Clarity to Cash blueprint and get more information about you.
Absolutely. So on my website at www.gogetit.com is
Wonderful.
Where they can learn more about me. Yes.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And I want to thank you all for tuning in to Get Rooted Radio. If you missed any part of today's episode or want to listen again, go to getrootedradio.com for the podcast. And don't forget to tune in the first and third Monday of each month at 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, and 2 p.m. Pacific right here on Transformation Talk Radio. And before I sign off, ask yourself if you are living a rooted life with appropriate boundaries. Are you the hero of your story? If that answer is no, set up your free Empower Hour call with me. No charge, no obligations. Go to getrootedradio.com to find out how I can help you take action now. And if you're ready to live, love, and let go, then my award-winning book and companion workbook, The Rooted Life, Live, Love, Let Go, which is also a finalist in the 2025 Author of the Year by International Impact Book Awards. You want to check that bundled deal out at Get Rooted Radio under the author section. Also coming out, my new collaboration books, Cracking the Rich Code Volume 16, endorsed by Tony Robbins, and also the collaboration book with Kevin Harrington and a bunch of wonderful leaders called The Impact Leaders, and my new solo book, Rooted Leadership, Growing from Within to Lead with Strengths. I want to also make this your personal invitation. I'm calling all powerful women leaders to be a co-author in my next project, Lead Like a Woman. It's a bold collaboration celebrating real stories of resilience, leadership, and unapologetic power. And I believe your story deserves to be in this book. Again, looking for 25 fierce women who are ready to rise, speak up, and lead out loud. It's going to be more than just a book. It's a movement, a sisterhood, a legacy. So if you want to break the molds and inspire others and lead from your roots, this is your invitation. And on this mental health month, this mental health awareness month, I want to do one last personal message. If you are hurting or need help, please know the world needs you and it is a better place with you in it. Don't let the hard days win. Reach out for assistance. You can call or text or chat the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. They're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's free. Or text HOME, HOME, to 741-741 to reach a trained crisis counselor through the crisis text line. Again, that's a global not-for-profit organization. It's free, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have an amazing day. Know that you are loved, and I'm looking forward to the next time on Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills. Living it up, loving it up, letting it go. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Get Rooted Radio with Erica Gifford Mills, living it up, loving it up, and letting it go. Visit getrootedradio.com if you have missed any part of this hit show, and tune in on transformationtalkradio.com to live fearlessly in your more and powerfully rooted in your unlimited yes. For more information and to work with Erica directly, visit getrootedradio.com. That's getrootedradio.com, and get ready to live it up, love it up, and let it go.